Hello, everyone. IMS welcomes you all to the webinar series, Future You, Set Your Career Compass Right with Experts Insight. And I'm Kalyani, your host for this webinar. So in this session, our topic is how to become a product manager. And you will find out about the career growth in product management, roles and responsibilities of a product manager, career trajectory of the speaker who have joined us today, PM role in e-commerce, skills to have in order to excel, and more. So let's welcome our speaker today. We have Aniket Tanawade. He's a senior product manager at Tata CLiQ and an alumnus of JBIMS. Aniket has over 7 years of high performance delivered across technology, sales, and omnichannel roles. And we will also listen to his interesting career trajectory in all these different roles. And so welcome, Aniket, and thank you so much for being here for this session. So let's start from your career progression from systems manager to product management. Yeah.
Thanks, Kalyani. I think thanks to the IMS team for having me again over here. It's a great joy to be talking with the young folks across that. And it doesn't seem very long that I was sitting on the other side of the table.
Let's start with your career trajectory. Yeah, from
Sure.
systems engineer. Yeah, how did it all start? Yeah.
Yeah, so I had a very what we'll call as a typical engineering story, right? So you go into your engineering college, then you decide that, okay, I have done electronics and telecommunications, and now essentially I want to try IT, right? And that's how I got into TCS. I became a Java developer. I honed my skill at development for close to 2.5 years, post which I felt that there is no real push for me to continue within this, right? I was doing fairly well over there, but I think over the time when you have a peer with you, they kind of motivate you and push you to kind of try out new things. And that's when MBA happened for me. Tried for a couple of years to get into decent colleges and finally could crack Bajaj. Funnily enough, I interned with an investment bank. So I interned with JP Morgan in their strategy division. The one thing that I learned over there is that finance and specifically investment banking is not something for me, right? So then I again went back for the second year of my MBA. Then I chose to work with Samsung, and with Samsung I was part of the GT sales, which is general trade sales, right? So typically you will have a dealer distributor network to manage. I did that stint for close to 2.5 years. So I was based out of a place called as Godhra in Gujarat, right? So it's around 100 kilometers from Baroda. I stayed there for 1.5 years. Really, I think it was 10 years of management in 1 year when I stayed in Godhra, because you are on your own over there, right? Wanted to try something new, and after 2.5 years with Samsung, I got this opportunity to work with Tata CLiQ. Coincidentally, in the 2.5 years that I have been associated with Tata CLiQ, this is my third role. So I joined in the program management team with Tata CLiQ. So I used to manage the omnichannel program, essentially the stores and the networks of stores. Then I had the opportunity to lead the smartphones team at Tata CLiQ, right? So I used to head the smartphones buying and merchandising and all this bit. Then we had a restructuring internally last year, wherein at a central Tata level, you must have heard of this business called as Tata New. Right now, if you're following IPL a lot. So within that restructuring, once again, I got an opportunity to try something new, and I picked up this role of product management. So I joined as a senior product manager for search, and this is how it has been for me for the past 7 odd years.
Okay, so now tell me how exactly the transition was. How smooth was the transition from, because since you were also into category management and all that, and then now product management. And was this was product management something that you were planning for a long time, or did that also just happen? Like, since you said about you were at JB and your internship, and you realized during your internship that investment banking is not your thing. So then, obviously, so was product management somewhere in the plan?
I think in hindsight, we would like to connect the dots, right? And it's very easy to say that, okay, this led to something else. One thing was very clear to me when I was in my second year of my MBA is what I wanted to be in a job or in a role which was very techno savvy, right? I was not enchanted by a very typical P&L kind of responsibility, but at the same time, business was calling for me is what I learned, right? Product management fitted a lot of those boxes because you have not an exact P&L responsibility, but you do have the conversion and revenue aspect and your targets that you essentially take for a year. And at the same time, within the business side, I believe there is no other role which would demand a greater level of interaction with the tech part of businesses. And especially in an e-commerce setting where Tata CLiQ kind of resides, I think that's paramount, right? So it's always an advantage for me to use and draw from my previous experience as a developer when I'm getting those roadmap delivered by the developers themselves, right? So it's always an advantage. So how I would put my choices over the last few years is to build on whatever I have done. It might not look very contiguous when I started my career, but looking back, I think it's something that has proven to be working in my favor. Another thing to what you mentioned, right? How this transition happened between these roles. I think a lot of it also comes down to the kind of organization that CLiQ is. It allows this kind of a free movement. But I think one thing that one of my early managers has taught me and had stayed with me is to say yes to opportunities. So I was so Tata CLiQ offers you this opportunities to work in network teams, right? So essentially, you also worked on what the college folks might know of extracurricular projects. So you get to participate in projects which are cross-functional in nature. So I connected with few of the senior leaderships. I connected with Sid, who is the CBO of electronics. I formed a relationship with him, and when this opportunity came, he kind of reached out, "Oh, do you want to do smartphones?" And finally, I had a relationship with one of our CPOs, and he told me, "Okay, there's this product opportunity. Do you want to take this?" So I think a lot of this is slightly serendipitous, but you also have to have those kind of relationships built to tap into the opportunity as well.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, what are the roles and responsibilities of a product management of a product manager, and within product management? As in, can you, if you can just tell us a generic roles and responsibilities of in product management, for any industry for that matter.
Got it. I think product management is one of the not the most, but one of the most misunderstood industries or verticals that you could possibly have, right? A lot of people also confuse it with project management.
Yes.
I would
and
first
there is
like
also
to clarify
another thing, there is an overlap somewhere between brand management. A lot of people are also confused sometimes, especially when it comes to FMCG, that product management versus brand management, how different are these and all that. So first tell us the generic roles and responsibilities of a product manager.
Sure. So I think the first thing that I would like to point out, and a lot of folks in this audience, I think at least 20% would be belonging to a tech background, right? And would have worked with a lot of project managers as well. Project management essentially concerns with the how of a problem, right? How do we do it? When is it going to be done? Project management is largely why we want to do something. Product management, right? So if I had to distill this entire kind of a vertical into one word, it is why of anything, right? So if I am in e-commerce, why do I want to build this feature? Why do I want to invest in something, right? It's largely trying to distill a lot of your competition activities, what the competition is doing externally, what are your users saying about you. So there is an explicit way of doing user research. There is also an implicit way of taking the data that is residing in your own systems and distilling it in the form of customer needs, right? So customer needs, once again, are something that is explicit and implicit. So understanding all these requirements, right? A is competition benchmarking, B is the customer requirements, and C is the business requirements as well. So you will be working with a lot of business stakeholders. They will come to you that, oh, we want this feature to be delivered, right? So something that you might relate to is, let's say you are on Amazon.com, right? And you have this option of one-click purchase. So some product manager had to kind of research why this one-click purchase must be delivered. Are customers even going to use this feature? And even after we build any feature, we have to continually test it to see if the metrics are up to the mark, right? Because everything that we build is a cost that is associated with it, right? So product manager also have to don this hat of a resource optimizer or something. So to your question specifically, what is the role of a product manager? I think it's largely to define what is supposed to be built and why it is supposed to be built. The how and when essentially follow once the first two questions are answered, right? Within which the other question that you had raised is how is it different across multiple verticals? So or industries for that matter. So one key difference that I would like to call out is in e-commerce or in tech companies, right, or in fintech companies, product management is slightly different. In your FMCG and FMCD company, it is slightly different.
Okay.
Why? Because in a physical product, the go-to-market strategies are slightly different. Your distribution channels are also going to be different. In an e-commerce or technology setting, your distribution channel is only going to be the online channel, right? So the product management over there is slightly more attuned towards your distribution, marketing, trade channels, right? Managing the pricing and promotion schemes in the FMCG and FMCD kind of industries.
Okay.
But in e-commerce, it is largely about having a tech-driven roadmap. What are the features that you would want to build? What is the next big flywheel, if I can refer to Steve Jobs and all the Jeff Bezos of the world, to create this flywheel in terms of adding additional revenue to the company? And what are the features which would enable you to deliver that? That is where a lot of task e-commerce product managers kind of have to deliver on.
Okay, so what are these different departments? So you have to work with different departments, but tell me something in e-commerce specifically, in an e-commerce firm, a product management person should be from a tech background, right? Or if the person is a non-tech person, will that be a problem for them to be hired by, say, anyone like a e-commerce firm, like an
I hear you, and that is once again a common misconception, right?
Okay.
So there is something of a minimum requirement and something of a good to have, right? So tech background is always a good to have in a product management kind of a setting. There are two kind of product management roles as well. There are those which are only labeled as product managers. Then there are roles which are labeled as technical product manager. I'm only talking about the e-commerce bit now. So for technical product managers, yes, there is a minimum requirement of you having some kind of a software development experience. But for a product manager role, no. If you have relevant experience, it's always counted in your advantage, right? Even within product manager, a person who has not done any kind of tech in the past, but has the relevant domain knowledge. Because let's say you have a person who is experienced in payments, right? And if a payment opportunity comes up, that person will of course be considered very highly over somebody who has supply chain experience, because it just helps people hit the ground running.
So when you're saying payment, as in those add to cart and this and that?
Correct. So the entire journey which starts after a person has added into the carts, all the offers that you have to run, all the payment modes that you have to integrate, and essentially after the order has been completed, you have to send a confirmation to the customer. So everything that lies between that part of the journey, and trust me, it's a very big part. So that is part of something we call as lower funnel in the marketing funnel, if you see from an e-commerce perspective.
Okay, so how is a typical day for a product manager? So you can talk about your own typical day, what all you have to do, and also how many departments what all are the departments that you have to work with? That might just give us more clarity on the roles and responsibilities, because it's like a lot.
Correct. So 1 second, right? So the product management is often talked about as a mini CEO kind of a role, right? You might have heard of this misnomer, but you don't have a lot of people. You will have, as you go in your career in product management, you have APMs, assistant product managers, and product managers reporting into you, but rarely you will find your direct scope of control expanding to these people, right? But yes, you have something. So we work generally in an e-commerce setting, we work in an agile methodology, right? We have sprints, we have scrum. So largely we have teams of developers with whom we have the sync up calls every day, right? So we discuss what has to be delivered, in a 15-day period, which we typically call as a sprint. And then we check up every day at 10 a.m. We start with a sprint call with our developers. Then we have another sprint call with the next set of developers, because one team is delivering on, let's say, a payments product, right? So we only discuss the payments related thing with them. Then we have another team who will be doing something on the search part. So we'll discuss the search updates with those teams. So typically this updates part will take 45 minutes to 1 hour every day. And these are very critical, because any kind of blockers which would affect the rollout would essentially, hinder your day. So those will have to be there. Then you also have to collaborate with your business stakeholders, right? So the business team often would discuss metrics with you. So you would have your North Star metrics. The metrics will define how your product is actually hitting the business. And are there any gaps within this, right? So we discuss all the major checkpoints that are there, any kind of issues that the business is kind of facing, which are impacting a lot of customers. that is also taken into account in the sync part itself, right? So typically
Okay.
starts at 10 and then all the sync ups end typically at 12, right? Then we actually get into a lot of grooming calls. So once we decide a feature, let's say talk about that one click pay feature, right?
Yeah.
So a product manager has to write very detailed notes. So one of the key skills that a product manager needs to have is writing very detailed, very crisp notes, because those notes become the talking point or the basis for which the developers create the
Okay.
code. So we have to write user stories. We have to ensure that all the customer use cases are covered in that
Correct.
user stories, right? So
Okay.
typically we'd want at least 1 hour with our developers to whatever features that we are planning. So we tell them, okay, this should work this way. Then we have the design team coming in. They show the design. So we work with the design team. Oh, this is not looking right. What is the data for having this button over here and not over here, right? What is the market research that the design team has done. Then we also work with a lot of business stakeholders. So these are not directly the category folk or the business folks, sales folks. These are the finance, the customer service, the supply chain, to see if something that we are building is going to impact them as well, right? Finally, a couple of hours to 3 hours, we typically have something called as focus time for us, because as I told you, right, a lot of our work is in strategizing about the roadmap, writing really high quality product stories, user stories, which the developers can refer to. And essentially, we also have to refer to a lot of bugs which come into the system, right? So we also have to vet them and we have to prioritize them.
Okay.
So
is
yeah,
that
so
like how a typical day is? So the first half is, getting all the things together, and then in the second half you sit with the team and then you find solutions. Is that how it works?
Correct.
Okay.
So yeah, so typically that's how it works. Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us about the skill sets? You did say something about, the person should be able to take notes really well, as in understand the client's, needs, and put all those things in notes. And so definitely communication is something, and listening and all that is there. But can you tell us, like, 3 hard skills and 3 soft skills that must be there for anyone to even think of having a career in product management?
Got it. So I think first skill I would rather classify in terms of importance rather than classifying in hard and soft skills. The absolute first thing that a person needs to have is empathy for the user, right? So you need to put yourself in the user's footsteps. So if I am designing, let's say, a food app, right? I cannot ignore Swiggy and Zomato and create a new experience out of it, right? Or if I have developed something, I need to test it out myself. As a customer, am I happy doing what I'm doing, right? And that will only happen by empathy. Empathy is not some abstract word that we just throw out. Empathy can be very clearly defined as how many user interviews we conduct, how much user data do we skim through, what is the amount of time we invest in tracing the customer journey ourselves and within our teams, right? So the first skill that we absolutely need to have is user empathy, and it's a skill because it can be developed, it can be tuned over time. It's not an inherent trait that we have, right? The second must-have skill is prioritization, and ruthless prioritization at that, because if you look at my calendar in a typical day, I will have 20 odd meetings line up. So I have to actively decline calls, because everyone would want to pull you on the call, because business would say that these things are not working properly. The developers would say that I need more details on this feature. So I have to, every evening, I have to take a call on which meetings I have to decline tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll not get anything done, right? So there is this person, if those of you are really interested in product management, you can follow this guy online, Shreyas Doshi. Amazing frameworks he'll give you about product management. So really you have to prioritize very well, right? The third one, of course, is good communication skills, like you brought out. And communication skills is not only about good language, right? Good language is one part of it, but are you able to get your point across? So you have to communicate with CXOs in writing a note for the feature, but at the same time, you also have to, write down something for a developer. So the communication standard has to be attuned to the audience, right? It cannot be that you are using the same word, same language to a developer and the CEO, right? At the same time, you also have to communicate news that you're not going to pick something up. So you will have to master the art of saying no. And that is a very key communication barrier that a lot of people face, saying no to someone, right? And without offending them. So you'll have to say a lot of senior stakeholders that you cannot pick something up. So I think that is the third thing. The fourth thing is, of course, having and once again, sub part of a communication, but I cannot stress this enough, having very good written communication skills
Right.
in
Yeah.
terms of articulating what is to be done, how it is to be done, what are the use cases, what is the acceptance criteria, when will you reject this feature, what has to be measured, how often it has to be measured, all that things, right?
Okay. Okay.
This is something where chat gpt and all those ai tools really help you, because you can create a structure and you can actually feed it to chat gpt and it can give you, right? So
Correct. Yeah.
I'm one of those folks who sees ai as an opportunity in terms of automating a lot of these workflows, then moving on. Additionally, after that, you have a really good design sense, right? You don't have to be a designer yourself, but you need to understand what should work. So a checkout button cannot be red unless your site theme dictates, right? You have to guide the customer towards a good
Correct.
color combination, feel good about them. Loading icon cannot be very jittery, otherwise customers would feel that it's not the right experience for them.
Okay.
There is alignment that has to be proper for text which is supposed to be in a button. There is
Okay.
alignment that has to be there when you are, let's say, in a menu card for Zomato or Swiggy. So all
Okay.
these kind of variations you have to have within your design. And
Mm.
finally, you need to have a lot of patience, because
Mm.
uh, as a product manager, you will write features which will get delivered 3 months, 6 months, 1 year down the line.
Mm.
At that point of time, you will get disheartened that, oh, I am working towards something, but it's not seeing the light of day. So you need to have
Okay.
that patience. That okay, I'm building something. So you that is the sprint success, right? So every 15
Okay.
days you have a checkpoint. Okay, this part is done, this part is done, this part is done.
Okay.
So I think these are the 5 or 6 skills that I would
Mm.
rate very highly. Apart
Mm.
from that, domain knowledge you will only build as you spend time with any other function, right? So the more
Okay.
amount of time you spend, the more competence you develop and all that.
Okay. Do you have to work with a lot of numbers and a lot of data as a product manager?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
And
Okay.
having maybe that's an oversight for me, but having data and analytical skills is like
Yeah.
the most thing, because once I talked about user research and user measurement, right?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
the last part I talked about writing stories where you ask what has to be measured. You have to take calls which are 70% based on data and 30% based
Okay.
on your gut, right? But that 70% has to be damn good. It cannot be that just today I'm talking about having an app rollout, so a
Okay.
post app upgrade. So you might have seen sometimes you have opened an app and you are being asked to force upgrade. As a customer, it's
Yes.
not a good
Yeah.
experience for you, right? So for me to because I have a feature which is not backwards compatible, I have to make a case to my CBO why I
Okay.
want to upgrade forcefully for 2% of the users, right? Because only
Okay.
2% of users are using that app. So I
Correct.
cannot
Correct.
be very offhand about my numbers. Oh, okay, yaar, itna karke chal jayega. You have to be very specific. But when the gut part is there, you have to really ensure that you develop this over time. So it's not something that you will learn from a book, but you will build it over time.
Okay. How much of it has affected you in your product management, your current role as a product manager, in understanding and all that? Yeah.
I think it really helps. That is true for any kind of a roles which you will do within any organization, right? Because you will at least carry that context that you have developed initially. So I knew what my systems were. I knew data flew from which system to which system. I knew what was important for my client. So if I'm developing a monetization tool today, I know what brands are looking out for. So I don't have to spend that much amount of time in business validation. Let's say a product manager who hasn't had this kind of a business experience has to.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
whenever there is an overlap of what I have already done with what I'm, with the feature that I'm doing, it definitely helps me. But it's not that I could not have done directly as well. It would have only taken me some longer time. It's just easier to do when you have the organization context.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Tell us where to begin in this career as a product manager. Where should one begin? As in, you can tell us from if someone has not done an MBA.
Right.
And so from a non-MBA point of view and from an MBA point of view, how exactly to start and where to begin?
Sure. I think product management is one area where you will see a lot of folks from IITs, NITs join as APMs, right?
Okay.
Either as analysts or as associate product manager. So I'll just quickly explain
Yeah.
what a typical hierarchy looks like. Then it's easier for you to grasp
But this
how
is
this
only
journey
for
could be.
apps and only for firms like Microsoft and all that, or is it? Are we talking
It,
about industry agnostic? No,
so
only
it's
the tech
largely what
ones.
I would, yeah, largely tech one. So people who
Mm.
work with a lot of developers, this is true
Mm.
for them. Because a
Okay.
lot of other product managers, let's say a company like Abbott or HUL,
Mm.
would require
Yeah.
a different kind of skill set, and they would typically want people with MBA degrees to come in, right? Because you have to plan for pricing promotions. Some of those
Okay.
are key concepts which people with engineering degrees might not be aware about. So that is where an MBA degree would be
Okay.
advantageous.
Okay.
uh, this part, where the
Huh.
tech and fintech and all the product part which you
Mm-hmm.
typically hear about, you
Correct.
can make it without an MBA as well. I've seen people,
Okay.
even within like exceptional product managers,
Hmm.
uh, there is there will exist a glass ceiling if you do not get the right kind of support or
Hmm.
network within the company that you are.
Hmm.
But I would say that 70% or 60% of great product managers who are out there and who have
Hmm.
built great companies, great products, have not done an MBA. So
Okay. Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
it's not really necessary to do an MBA. MBA really acts like a catalyst. So if you have the right ingredients, it will only spur you to perform
Hmm.
better, right? So the
But
typical
tell me something. If somebody is from IIT and all that, or from from tech background, software background, and is working as a analyst or as a assistant or associate product manager, how will that person understand the business part if not without an MBA or without a training, as in to bring in business solutions and pricing and all? I mean, is
Yeah,
that not a
correct. So
problem?
I think that is where the entry point lies in,
Huh.
right? So
Okay.
that is why I was so understand this
Mhm.
ladder first, right? So you
Okay.
start off as a product analyst, then you grow to an associate product manager, then you become
Okay.
a product manager. Depending
Okay.
on the scale of the company, you either become a senior product manager, lead product manager, or group product manager, right?
Okay.
Depending on the scale of the company or the hierarchy of the company.
Okay.
After these three roles, which are analogous, you become a director of product,
Hmm.
after which typically become a VP of product, then you
Hmm.
become a CPO. Uh, Once again, depending on the nature of the company. So a Meta would have a product manager who may be a CPO,
Okay.
uh, but an Amazon could look at a person who is from a business side more favorably in a CPO, right? So
Okay.
people, I have seen a lot of journeys which have ended up in people becoming CEOs from a CPO journey as well. But
Okay.
largely, the most successful folks that I have seen from CPO have started out something their own. So CPO to
Okay.
founder journey
Hmm.
is more common in my experience. So when you
Okay.
say that, how do people learn the
Hmm.
pricing promotion bit? So
Correct.
typically, after an engineering degree, you will join as an analyst or an associate PM at best, right? Very rare
Okay.
cases you will join as a PM.
Okay.
Whereas contrast that to an MBA degree from a very good
Hmm.
institute,
Hmm.
you will typically join it at the product manager level itself,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So when you are an analyst or an APM, the degree of freedom that you are allowed to learn and pick up these concepts is higher, and the time that you need
Okay.
to grow from an analyst to an PM, so two levels up, is typically 3 to 3.5 years, which
Hmm.
is more than what you typically spend in an MBA. So
Correct.
MBA is not an magic wand that you will learn something
Hmm.
only in those walls, right? So
Correct.
3.5 years, if you're working on a job, you'll typically pick up the skills very fast.
Okay. 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 Yeah. There's a question about, I'm a mechanical engineer with 4 years of work experience in the same field, in mechanical engineering. I'll be starting my MBA this June from IIM. How should I prepare to land a PM role in a good company? So yeah, so maybe you can also talk about the kind of profiles that get picked up by PM for PM role by companies.
Hmm.
So yeah, so maybe and you can also give some tips maybe for the CAT aspirants. Right now, this time till their MBA, if they can do something to have better talking points also, maybe
Understood.
internships or I don't know, any other things that they can do probably. Yeah.
Understood.
Hmm.
So to the first question,
Hmm. Mechanical
for
engineering.
this mechanical engineering guy,
Hmm.
I think for you, friend, uh, targeting any specific company is very difficult in campus placements. Campus
Yeah.
placements, I think you will learn when you join the college,
Yeah.
are literally like a magician's hat, and you never
Yeah.
know which company is going to be pulled out and
Right.
which interview you are going to get, because you will be having 4 or 5 companies coming in the company at the same time. is very difficult. And then there is an option that you can opt out from some specific companies, but you will be taking an enormous amount of risk that, okay, you are only applying for, let's say in a campus, you are getting 100 companies, only 10 of them are from e-commerce, only 5 of them are offering product roles. So then you have to be extremely committed to this idea of getting into product management. अगर ये 5 नहीं मिले तो कोई problem नहीं है, मैं बाहर जाके job ढूंढूंगा. So if you are very clear, I would not recommend on that. You might have a bigger palette where you can experiment different flavors of the corporate world. But my recommendation would be to approach this with an open mind. If after that you feel that product management still is the right place for you, there are multiple ways in which you can get this opportunity even from outside. So you can reach out to folks in those companies, ask for an internship, maybe paid, unpaid, whatever is working out in the current economic scenario. And then you can possibly have an into the company. Product management, to my mind, is not something that you can learn by reading books or reading articles or hearing seminars like this one. You can get a sense of how this thing works, but actual product management you will only understand once you do it, because a lot of confidence that you will derive is from execution, right? It's not from hearing somebody describe कि अच्छा ये ऐसा चलता है. You will not get that confidence. So confidence to speak you will only get after you deliver over, let's say, 6 months, 1 year. Then you will be able to say, oh, I know that this works and this does not work. Right? So friend, for your specific question, there are certain things that you can do. You can reach out to folks in companies. Startups specifically will be looking for people who can intern as analysts in product management. Maybe some projects that they'll give you. Do those. They'll extremely really help you a lot. You can read about a few books. I'll post a link after this call and you can refer the books which are available. But largely product management is about doing. So any opportunity you will find to do something does it, but the strategy that you are probably trying for only applying for product management, I would not have been so brave to take this kind of a call in my MBA at least.
Okay. Yeah, but any tips for profile building at all?
Yeah.
That kind of takes.
So you will see a lot of the new age startups selling you a product management course. So you will find product management from Amindor, product management from Unacademy, and all those things. Be very cognizant that are not a lot of, at least from a tech and fintech companies, are not a lot of CPOs or even directors or senior product managers would value those certifications, because once again, it's very theoretical. Product management you'll only learn after you do. So it's not something like a Six Sigma certification that you do for project management, or it's not something like a CFA or NRFM models that you do for finance, which have universal acclaim on recognition. These are something that you only want to do for your peace of mind only, then I'll recommend. Otherwise, I will not recommend to invest a lot because of costly as well. One thing that you can definitely do, like I told you, do some projects. Building an app today is not very complex. You can build app without no code yourself. And then you can say that I research. So a lot of you might have been seeing Shark Tank, right? So you can draw inspiration. Literally, you can draw inspiration from that. You can literally steal somebody's ideas and say that, oh, this is the mock-up that I have created. And trust me, if you have something that is deployed on a local system and you go to an interview and say that I have something that I can show you that I have built, trust me, that will work in your favor more than any certification that you can put. So profile building, specifically of product management, is very difficult. But for all the other fields, do all the CRM, the CFAs and NRFM models, all those in the world.
Okay. I'm currently in my second year of BA, preparing for CAT. Can I get into PM just after my MBA, being a fresher? So do they hire for PM roles as a fresher from an MBA school, from a B school, or do they go like how you did, as in different functions and then finally?
So once again, I'll refer to that magician's hat, right? So I will say the probability of that happening is 5%. It is always going to be non-zero, right? But are you willing to take that risk? So if you are somebody who is really into product management at this scale, at this time, right? You're in the second year of your graduation course, and you are stuck on doing product management, I would recommend speak to at least 10-15 people who are in product management before making decisions. Because see, once you're doing something, you're also not doing something else. So at this early career, I would not want somebody to be so inclined on one specific field. But yes, people would hire. the probability is once again the number of companies which come into the campus, then
Mm.
which will be multiplied into the companies which are from those industries,
Mm.
then which are hiring for those roles, and then what is your competition looking like, or what is the peer group of people who are looking like. So people will
Right.
not discriminate you because you do not have an experience, but people
Mm.
would rather give advantage to somebody who might have experience. I
Correct.
would put it that
Yeah.
way.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, can you tell us something about one challenge, one challenging experience you've had as a product manager at Tata CLiQ, and how did you overcome it? Was there anything like that that you had to
Yeah.
find business solutions of?
Correct, correct. I think
Hmm.
one significant, and this will happen typically when you carry a lot of baggage from your previous role. So I came from a
Okay.
sales role which was very operationally heavy. So my day started with grilling my team on why the numbers did not happen. My managers would then
Ah.
grill me about entire my sales funnel and everything.
Ah.
I kind of followed that into my product role, right? So there was a lot of unlearning that I had to do because the way I could, let's say, talk with a seller account manager is not the same way I can talk with a developer. So you have to be very specific. Developers are really smart kids. You
Hmm.
need to tell them the direction and they'll go. So you
Correct.
have to really tune yourself to give them the right direction. Whereas in a sales role, you essentially kind of just telling is not enough. You also have to demonstrate time and time again. कि अच्छा ये करना है, ये करना है. So I think this
Hmm.
part of unlearning a lot of things that I had picked up in sales was took some time for me, couple of months at least. But
Hmm.
then it kind of smoothed out because it's very easy to kind of
Okay.
accommodate with that kind of an environment.
Okay. So, what exactly is the key expectation from a PM at any firm? I'm talking about any firm, not just a app
Hmm.
development or not like a Tata CLiQ only, but also as a Microsoft or a Tata CLiQ or Amazon.
So product managers are there for your product, right? And your product
Hmm.
exists to further your business.
Hmm.
So as long as you have a business strategy which is aligned to grow at an X pace, so your business strategy could be to acquire, let's say, 1 million customers. It could be to
Hmm.
do 10 million of revenue. It could be to, do something entirely else. So
Okay.
as long as you have a business strategy, you will have a corresponding product strategy to go. So if I
Hmm.
want to grow my business by, let's say, 10 times,
Okay.
how would I grow this business? Would I deliver to more regions? Would I add more product lines, or
Hmm.
would I add a feature which will allow customers to replace? So returns
Hmm.
and replacement is around 40% on fashion e-commerce. So if
Hmm.
I introduce this feature, my business is expected to grow at least by 20-30%.
Hmm.
So when you have a business goal that is defined, product essentially comes in and prepares a roadmap to deliver this, right? So the expectation for a product manager is to define this product features or this product roadmap which is aligned to this business objective that you have. The second part then becomes how are we going to break this down and prioritize this in terms of impact, in terms of cost and resources.
Hmm.
Then the final part is the execution, right? Which is where a lot of people actually would gloss over every role. Execution is very key. So whatever we have committed in the roadmap, the
Hmm.
organization expects that the product manager will own up and do it. Because once again, the problem that I described earlier, not a lot of direct reporting happens. So you have to influence people to get it
Okay.
delivered, right? And that
Okay.
influencing happens at all levels, from a CEO to tell him why we need this much money to build this, at the
Hmm.
same time to the developer, okay, we have the money now, please build this is the way we want to build this feature. So that
Okay.
is in summary of how an expectation of uh, product manager goes. Similarly, for a non-tech kind of industry,
Hmm.
let's say you're talking about my previous company, it's a Samsung.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
in Samsung, a product manager would be once again given a target to maximize the revenue or profitability for a year or both at the same time. So
Okay.
which features you will keep in a mobile phone which you will launch in India, and which features you will remove. So maybe you would want to have a 8 GB phone with a 12 megapixel camera.
Hmm.
So there will be
Hmm.
cost of bill of material which will be associated with it.
Okay.
How will you launch this product? What is the channel margin that you would give?
Hmm.
How long would you keep the product in the market, and then how fast can you remove that product and introduce the next product? So
Okay.
once again, the entire life cycle of this product would be the responsibility of the product manager in FMCD kind
Okay.
of a department, or an FMCG kind of a department.
Okay. 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 And as a product manager, do you get to work on just one project, as in one product, or can you work on multiple at the same time?
It's a function of the scale of the company. So if you
Hmm.
are working in a startup kind of an environment, you
Hmm.
typically work across multiple funnels. So you will
Okay.
own the search, you will own the product landing page where you see the search results, and then you'll also own the product display page where you see and interact and buy the product, right? Click on the buy now
Okay.
button.
Hmm.
But in a company like, let's say ours, I manage the entire search journey itself. So there are several other colleagues with me who manage each of those components. So as the
Hmm.
company matures, the roles become more defined. If you are in a smaller stage, then of course the roles are more fluid.
Okay. Okay.
Product strategy, once again,
What
kind
is
of a
it?
misnomer.
Yeah.
Kind of a
What is?
misnomer.
Hmm.
Product strategy is part of a roadmap, right? So part of a product manager's duty. So as an analyst, I don't think you'll be involved in a lot of product strategy. You will be given what has to
Hmm.
be done.
Hmm.
Starting APM, you become slightly involved with feature level. PMs, you definitely have to, for your area at least, define
Hmm.
what are the feature level things that you have to do. Senior product managers and upward, you have to be heavily doing strategizing, right? Why
Right.
something has to be built? Why would how soon can we roll this out so that competition
Correct.
doesn't kill us and everything. So
Hmm.
product strategy is a part of the game.
Okay.
As you go to a VP of product, director of product, CPO, their
Hmm.
product strategy becomes 70% of your role,
Okay.
right? So there
Okay.
it becomes very important. But I do not like
Right.
to believe that there will be
Hmm.
roles which will be only product strategy, because without
Hmm.
understanding the execution part of things, it's very difficult to do the strategy part of things in
Correct.
product at least.
Okay. Okay. This phrase is used a lot, design thinking. How can someone learn design thinking? What is design thinking? As in, can you learn it, or do you, while you're working, you do it naturally? What is it?
Design thinking once again. This term of digitization, right?
Hmm.
So you have been hearing about this word digitization
Hmm.
for the last 10 years, but it has been right since we adopted computers, right? Computers are the basic forms of digitization, which has been
Hmm.
since 1970. Similarly, design thinking is not a new concept. It's something that
Hmm.
has picked up as a trend. uh,
Hmm.
Design thinking always talks about iteration. So
Okay.
you want to do something, you, rather than having a perfect product initially, or
Hmm.
the V1 of anything that you would want to do to be the perfect thing, you iterate over it. And that is a lot of
Okay.
how product management also works. So we iterate over things, we experiment
Hmm.
things, we do A/B
Okay.
tests to kind of
Okay.
arrive at a result.
Hmm.
So what I would say is design thinking is an integral part of product management, but also a lot of
Okay.
other things. So if you're in business as well,
Hmm.
you do not directly open 100 stores in India, right? Apple just opened 2 stores. They'll see the
Hmm. Hmm.
performance of 2 stores. Then
Yeah.
they'll check, oh, this is working in India, this is not working in India. Then they'll open 10 stores. Then they'll open 50 stores. So
Hmm.
design thinking essentially is that you create a solution. You not create, but you hypothesize for a solution. You implement that at a small scale. You take the feedback, then you implement that feedback again into the system, and then you expand, and then you grow. And once you have that confirmation that everything is working fine, then you actually will explode into the thing, right? So
Okay.
it's a misnomer. If you had to take it in a one thing or a one line kind of a thing, it's about
Hmm.
iteration and then applying this iteration to solution, right?
Okay. Okay. How exactly would you say the work-life balance is for a product management, for a product manager? Is it very hectic?
It's better than a lot of sales roles for sure,
Hmm.
because I've
Okay.
seen that side of my
Huh,
life,
huh,
so I
huh.
can tell it with a greater
Yeah.
accuracy. Uh, Whenever there are releases which go for
Hmm.
apps or tech products,
Yeah.
so it becomes slightly hectic because you have to ensure that the releases are met, the testing is done properly by the testing team. If
Hmm.
there are bugs, the production team is aligned to solve those bugs. Then
Hmm.
there will be
Hmm.
questions from the business team if something is going wrong and all. So releases period is slightly hectic, but it's manageable. And
Okay.
once again, right, work-life balance uh, would always be a function of how soon can you prioritize well. Because
Okay.
in product management, if I allow my calendar to be, I'll be on calls from 9 to 9, and then I'll start my work. So
Hmm.
you have to decline something. So you have to say no to something to get a good work-life balance, right? In any
Hmm.
career, irrespective whether it's product management. Yeah, so it's better
Correct.
than sales. Is what I can say very
Hmm.
objective because I've experienced it.
Hmm.
Is it better than a lot of other functions? I honestly do not have any information.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Tell me, if what if something goes wrong? Like, as you said, the work-life balance in your answer, the time that it's hectic is when, you are launching something or something. What if something goes wrong? Then who is the one who is responsible for it? Is it the product
Yeah,
manager?
yeah. So very
Yeah.
wonderful question, right? And to
Uh,
all the people who really want to do product management, so
uh.
product manager is like a pseudo CEO of the product, right?
Okay.
So rarely you will get plaudits for something that is going right. But whenever
Okay.
something goes wrong, people will give you brickbats, and that is part of the role because you
Yeah.
are the authoritative expert of that part of your company.
Mm.
Nobody else would know it better than you. So if something goes wrong, even if it's something tech did not perceive could break down. Let's say the performance testing was not done. The servers went down when the feature was on because
Yeah.
not for a
Yes.
feature.
Yeah.
Let's
Correct.
take the case of Geo, right? So when they
Mm.
started IPL the first
Mm.
time, the
Mm.
World Cup, Football World Cup, their
Mm.
website could not actually process the load that was coming. So I'm sure there would have been a product manager and there
Yeah.
would have been a performance engineer, but the performance
Yeah.
engineer would have done, yeah, production ऊपर requirement नहीं आया. So
Mm.
at that point of time,
Okay.
product manager को गाली खाया. But आज के दिन में when you see that Geo is delivering that, so product guy will feel good. So it's a lot of
Correct.
plaudits which are implicit and a lot of brickbats which are part of the role.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so before we wrap up, do you have any tips and suggestions for our CAT aspirants from MBA perspective? From, of course, you've already told what one has to do as
Mhm.
for product management. So
Yeah,
yeah, maybe for CAT aspirants, MBA
sure.
aspirants.
Um, I'm not sure when the exam is because I would
November.
November, right?
Yeah.
So you have roughly what, 5 months, 6 months?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
No, more than that, 7 months. Yeah.
let's assume six
Mm-hmm.
months, right? So assuming there will be two kind of cohorts that I would like to address. The first cohort is who have already done the basics, right? Maybe they have taken a year of drop and they've prepared, so they know their chords, they know their logical reasoning, they know their verbal. The only trick of the trade in any kind of a competitive exam, in my mind, is practice. No substitute for it. Nothing will boost your confidence. Nothing will boost your skills more than the practice test that any kind of institute would offer, right?
Correct.
Remember it working well for me because I was working in TCS at that point of time. So I used to reach home by 9:30, and then 10 to 1 was my mock test for CET. So I gave around 40-50 mock tests for CET itself,
Okay.
for JB, and around 40 odd for CAT and all. The only thing that I'll recommend, guys, is create a schedule, stick to that schedule. Schedule in life. If you guys haven't read that book, Atomic Habits, please do. Please do.
Atomic Habits. Yeah.
It will talk about creating an environment, sticking to that environment. We are a function of our habits, which is a function of our environment. So if you are someone who gets distracted very easily like me, keep your phone on silent. So I just heard my phone ring and I was distracted for a moment. So just create those kind of environment and then you will really succeed, right? For the other cohort who has not completed the basic at all, I would focus on identifying your strengths and weaknesses. There is a case to be made to make your weaknesses your strength. I would say the other. Make your strengths the real strength, because in CAT it is negative marking. It is easier to optimize for your strengths than to make your weaknesses your strengths, right? So increase your strength so much that you don't have to think about those questions at all, and then come to a comparable level of competence on the other questions. So I'm not sure if this really helps you guys, but you might try taking sectional, you might try taking topic wise tests, and then in the last couple of months, irrespective of which cohorts you are, only thing that you have to do is full length tests, nothing else. GDP में क्या करना है, कॉलेज में प्लेसमेंट्स में क्या करना है,
that's the next step.
जब वो ब्रिज पे आओगे तब वो ब्रिज क्रॉस करना. अभी के लिए आपको ब्रिज है कि आपको कैट देना है, जो भी एग्जाम एंट्रेंस दे रहे हो, ऑल द एग्जाम्स आर गुड, बट फोकस ऑन गेटिंग दैट हर्डल क्लियर, एंड ओनली देन थिंक, डोंट क्रिएट थर्ड ऑर्डर प्रॉब्लम्स की अच्छा मेरे को वहां पे कॉलेज प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर का पोजीशन चाहिए अगर 2 साल के बाद, उसके लिए मेरे को ये करना है, उसके लिए मेरे को ये करना है. It will unnecessary stress yourself.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. That's all we have for today. And thank you so much, all the attendees, for your questions. And thank you, Aniket, Tanawade, for giving all the insights on product management as well as generally on how to manage time and all that. Thank you so much.